Hi friends, welcome to another session from Let's Talk, Let's Connect. I'm Sampath, running a software company in Chennai. Let me give a brief about Let's Talk, Let's Connect. This platform helps anyone and everyone to build their self in various aspects like public speaking, webinars, and also if you have any specific topics that you may be comfortable, you can take over the platform and then present the same to a number of audiences. I am proud to be part of this platform where I personally see a lot of great people trying to help each other in a very, very positive way, and also a number of people improving their skills and then giving back without any expectation. I repeat, without any expectations. So, this is a wonderful group, and if you are interested in any topic that you are comfortable with and you can talk about the topic, you can use this platform to present your content. This platform will help you overcome any fears you may have on speaking and presenting. All you have to do is contact the people behind this platform through the established process. They are a team of selfless people who will be taking care of organizing your sessions and also guide you in all aspects. You can also invite your friends who are ready to share on any of the topics or subjects they are good at. Today's session is about robotic learning by Arijit Hajra. I once again welcome you to the session. Thank you.
With offline classes, classrooms, and all those stuff. But right now, for this COVID-19 and this lockdown, all the way of our life is going to be changed, and it's changing likewise. Now the thing is, if we consider mathematics, 1 to the power n equals to 1, right? But if the number is 2 rather than 1, and if we keep powering up the number of possibilities are growing exponentially, right? So if I am only talking and you are only listening, there is only one possibility that I have planned for this session, and that would be boring, because that's my own planning. It's not your planning, right? So if you are not interacting, I am only speaking, that is boring. So if you are interacting, if you are answering my questions, and those questions are not from any textbook, conventional education system, or all those stuff, this is very interesting, and anybody can answer these questions if they are really attentive to this session, right? So please answer your questions in comments, or you can unmute one by one and give some answers if the answer is big or something like that. So be interactive so that we can have a very enthusiastic, energetic, and interesting session, right? So that's the initial phase. Next,
They can post the questions and answer in the comment box so that someone could explain you.
Absolutely,
Because,
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So the name of the session is Beyond the Belief System. Now we have to understand what is the meaning of a name, because whenever we are giving something a name, that is meaningful, right? Except that human being names, because we are giving the name even before we don't know what they are going to do, right, in their life. So the name of the session is very much interesting and very much needed to understand before getting into the session. That is why beyond the belief system. So let's start commenting the answers. What do you understand about belief system in very small sentences? What is belief system according to you? And if anybody from the host can just read it out the questions or the comments, that would be great.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Just to make sure, is everyone audible what is speaking? Or
just to get their answers, like what is belief system according to them, what they understand about belief system kya hota hai, what is that thing?
Okay, is it only mandatory to comment only on the comment box, or we can just unmute and speak or something like that?
Whatever they want, I just want to know about their perspective.
Okay. So belief system, what I think is it's all about whatever structures we have, like society, religion, and what is right, what is wrong, and all those things. So I think so. The belief system is nothing but a set of a collection of rules and regulations, and which is passed on to generation after generation. That's what I'm thinking.
Absolutely. So belief system is a system that is created by pushing informations into our minds, since when we are having the consciousness to understand and process information, right? That is belief system.
I think I would like to add something. I don't think it's just about the society norms and everything. Belief system means whatever we want to accept, want to believe into, whether it is a standard society norm or not.
Absolutely, but in most of the cases, by human psychology, we are induced by other people's information because we are trusting them, we are believing them that they are trying to help us to live our life. Because right now we are matured enough to take our own decisions, but when we are young and if we are given wrong informations and that information is getting embossed into our mind, and if that is wrong even, but as because our near and dear ones are telling, they are keeping that thing into their mind, and that is the main reason of a disease that I call it a disease. The name of the disease is BSSIN. People they are going to get, and what is their passion, right? So that is belief system. That's that kind of belief system we are talking about over
Karthik has commented, what is known to as we believe.
Okay, fine. So we got a thing that you guys are participating. That's great. And secondly, we got a few philosophies and few point of view about belief system. Everything is correct. I am nobody to tell anything wrong, right? So belief system is a information system that is given to us from the society. That's absolutely right. Now, why we need to go beyond the belief system? Now, today you are into a class where you are going to know about certain things that is not conventional, right? And on a fine evening, why you are wasting your 1.5 hours to learn robotics? Because it's something that will help you to create new things. You want to innovate. That's why you want to learn new technological stuff, right? So in that case, if we want to be innovator, the first thing we need to do that we need to go beyond the belief system, because all the people who stayed within a belief system, those are not innovators. Take an example of anyone like Galileo Galilei, right? He just get out of the belief system, and that belief system is so strong. Religion, science, philosophy, everybody was talking a wrong thing, but so loudly that every single people on earth believed that sun was revolving around the earth, right? And he just get out of the belief system and proved what he was talking about, that is right, and that is an innovation. So if we want to do innovation, we need to get out of the belief system. That's highly important, right? So that's why the name of the session is beyond the belief system. So let's start with what I have done, what is a small achievement of mine. Like I have completed my BTech in 2016 from Macau, West Bengal. Then I have went for technology-based entrepreneurship development program in IIT Kharagpur, organized by DST and Kolkata Ventures, and we got the first prize among 600 startup in all over India for doing the best presentation of the business plan. Right now, I am the CEO of Think Again Lab. That's our company. That's India's first techno spiritual research company, and I am the Space Up India lead for NASA Space Up Challenge 2020. These are my current positions. Skill sets: I nearly work on 19 plus technologies, and I have patents in robotics as well as robotics and the electronics domain. I teach entrepreneurship. I teach techno spirituality. I guide companies as well as various innovators about intellectual property rights, and I work on people's online reputation management, and I featured and awarded and certified by IIT Kharagpur, IIM Calcutta, and several other big organizations, Times of India, and recently I was just awarded the best innovator of West Bengal by Department of Science and Technology for a innovation called Magic Ground. That's a mobile-sized robotics lab. You can call it the world's smallest robotics lab that can help you do 50 plus robotics projects, right? So these are the boring parts of my life. Let's get into something interesting. So what is self-learning and why we need it? Just comment out or unmute and say 2-3 people at least, so that I can just start the session.
To know more about ourselves, to know what we are capable of or what is interesting us, like that.
Great. Now, like if we are going to space, we need a spacesuit so that we can protect ourselves from the space hazards, right? Because we are not created for that particular environment.
For others' comments, if they are.
Yeah, sure.
And the small
While they
suggestion,
are, yeah.
can you go a bit slow so
Yeah,
that
sure,
everyone can understand?
sure, sure, sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so while we were waiting for this comments, I can just say, so self-learning in I think it's like experimenting our knowledge. For example, if I want to learn robotics, I don't know whether I'm interested in robotics or not, but it's just trying robotics, that will make me more, tempt me to learn a lot of things. Like when I just try, when I just start out, then I'll feel like, oh, robotics is this much interesting, so that I'll just dig deeper. So that is like self-learning is kind of an experiment for me.
Thank you, Aakash.
Absolutely.
I think self learning would be like when you just want to keep digging into anything, like you have interest in any particular topic or anything, and you're digging deeper and deeper and deeper, not because of some task to be completed or anything, but because of your inner urge that you
Okay,
want that thing, you want to know more about that, right?
absolutely. So let's update the question a little bit. Why we need self?
To get out
I
of our
think
comfort zone, I think.
Uh, uh, Not to get out of our comfort zone. Rather, we need when we just get out of the comfort zone and we are in the uncomfortable zone. And when we get out of the comfort zone and come into the uncomfortable zone, that is the beyond the belief system, because we all are comfortable in our belief system. And when we are going just out of the belief system, we are uncomfortable at that time. And at that moment, we need the self-learning belief system. The reason behind it, if we are doing something new, something innovative, something that has never been done, then nobody is there to teach us, right? So we have to teach our own self. We have to learn by our own self. That's why for being innovator, the most important capability is self-learning rather than learning by other people, right? So that's why we need to figure out how to do self-learning, and I will just explain that stuff with a story kind of a snippet, so that you can it's more interesting and more legible. Like
Yeah,
like
just a minute.
yeah,
Karthik has commented to learn more thing in the world since everything can't be taught.
absolutely. Is the thought is the initial, right? Absolutely right. So we need to figure out, we are talking about self learning, but how to do self learning? Only going to Google and just finding out certain information in self learning? It's certainly not, right? Because that's don't end up in implementation stuff, right? Even if we are learning several things, reading several things, but that is not getting implemented in our real life, we are not learning certain things to create, right? So let's take an example. Suppose you want to visit a city that is absolutely new to you. You don't have any relative over there. You don't have any friends, connections over there, right? So what are the two subjects you need to learn about that city, so that you can roam that city freely? You can just move around that city freely without anybody's help, by your own self. So what are those subjects? Just name the subjects.
Language.
But if you are getting a language, if you are just learning a language, you need to communicate with other people and get the information out, right? So in that process, other people are helping you, but I am talking about doing that by absolutely own, by your own self.
Psychology.
Then our own mind is enough, I guess.
Okay, okay,
We don't want any of other person's help, or we don't want to. It's. I feel like language is a necessity, because you actually need to. If you're visiting some unknown place, you want to know more about that place, and interacting with others is one of the best ways to know about any new thing or place or anything. But if you want to
absolutely.
explore on your own self, then your own brain is enough.
Yeah, but we suppose I have the brain and it's working fine, and I just land up in USA without having any information. Is that going to work? It's not going to work, right? So having our brain and sharp brain, that's very good point. But we have to utilize that brain to understand two subject about our city, so that we can roam about that city freely without anybody's help. So what are the subject names? It's normal subject names. We all have learned those subjects in our schools.
Sorry, what is the question?
So what are the two subjects we need to learn about a city to roam about that city freely without anybody's help?
Okay, geography, topography.
Map.
Okay, map is
Yeah,
part of geography, one subject.
Yeah, and
And what?
culture or something. I don't know.
Okay. So what is culture? What is culture? What is the subject that culture comes in?
Yeah. So as I said, it's a collection of the belief system and like the culture is
No,
built upon
not that complex. Not that complex. I'm just asking a
History?
subject name.
Simply. History?
Exactly.
Okay. Okay.
So the history or the origin of that city will tell us the places of interest we need to visit in that city to know that city, right?
Yes.
So that's history. And secondly, we need the map or the geography to understand how to locate those places and
Yeah.
Okay, so every subject is like a new city, right? Every new subject is like a new city. So we have to understand two subjects about every subject to understand that or learn that subject by our own self, and that is history or the origin of the subject. Because we have to understand necessity is the mother of invention, right? So if we get into the history and learn why a subject or a topic or a technology has been invented, we already know the application areas, because that will tell what is the necessity of inventing that particular subject or the technology, right? So that's the origin or the history. It's fine, na?
That's fine.
Yeah. So if we want to learn the subject by ourselves, we need to understand the origin and the roadmap of learning, and that we can get from the Google, not the learning process, right? We will get those informations, and rest of the work we need to do by ourselves. So for going beyond the belief system and understanding robotics, we need to go through certain topics that will initially it will look like irrelevant to the robotics or technology, but in later on process, when we get into sensors, actuators, and real stuff of robotics, we can relate how we have learned a generalized process through which you can work with any kind of sensors rather than the 1, 2, 3, 4 sensors I'm teaching today, right? So that's why we will start with something interesting. That is biocentrism. Had anybody heard of the term? What is biocentrism?
What's up?
No.
What's the term?
Biocentrism. It's written in the slides.
Kind of life cycle?
Sorry?
So
Kind of
the
life
meeting
cycle?
will end in another 10 minutes. Just a second. Sorry to interrupt. Meeting will end up in 10 minutes. I request everyone to join in the same link.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So what's biocentrism? Any idea?
Everything
Any kind of life cycle?
centralized. Everything centralized with or related to biology and everything.
Okay.
So
So
Smita has commented ecosystem.
fantastic. That's the answer I want to hear actually. So biocentrism is ecosystem, and what we have created today, that is called ecosystem, right? We call ourselves the most intelligent animal in this world, but what are the other animals who have participated in that exam in which we have come first, right? So we have taken the exam, we have given the papers, we have checked the paper and recognized ourselves as the most intelligent animal in this world, but we are not. And this biocentrism concept is depicting like that every single element in this whole ecosystem is equally important and equally responsible for all the things happening, because all the reality we have, that is created by us. And I will just go through another story to understand that concept, and that will be like before, it will be a question and answer story, so you have to answer in small formats in yes or no, right? So the situation is, suppose there is a jungle where there is no human being, no recording device, no animals are there. Now,
Yeah, you can continue, sir.
so suppose there's a jungle where a tree breakdowns, there is no human, no recording device, no animals. Will it produce a sound or not? Say yes or no. Any other answers? Yes or no? Just unmute and say yes or no. Okay. People, please interact. If you're not giving answers, it will be difficult to go through, because I don't plan any sessions. My student give me the context on which I.
See, can you repeat the question, Ji?
If there is a jungle where a tree breakdowns, there is no human, no animal, no recording device, will it produce a sound or no?
Tree
I'm not.
breaking down.
I
Yes,
mean,
okay.
I'm standing in the forest, and are you asking
No,
mine?
no. There is nobody. There is nobody. Just a tree breakdowns. Will it produce a sound or not? I'm not talking about listening the sound. I'm talking about will it produce a sound or not?
Yeah, definitely produce, no?
Yeah, the sound, the nature sound will be definitely there.
Okay. Okay, so let's get into the answer, because there is yes as well as no and all those stuff. So let me clear the stuff. It will not produce the sound, because when a tree breakdowns, it creates air pressure, right? And air pressure is silent. Now what happens, that air pressure comes to our ears and that vibrates our eardrum. Till now sound is not produced, right? There is a biological sensor just behind our eardrum that only understand the vibration of the eardrum and convert that vibration into electric pulses or stimuli, and that is called sound. So all the reality we have with around us, that is created by our own brain, our own sensors, right? So in that regard, every single people have their, or every single animal have their own ecosystem, own reality, right? So they are contributing towards creating an overall general ecosystem and the reality in which we are living in. So everybody is equal important. That's a concept. Secondly, how many of you are engineers? You guys, what are the backgrounds of all the participants? Are they engineers, students, schools?
Computer science.
Okay.
Medical.
Okay.
Commerce background.
Fantastic. So we have every people. So
Can
we can have
please
good
comment,
arguments,
or
right?
you can unmute and interact. I request
Exactly.
everyone to interact.
Don't take it as a classroom session. It's a kind of jamming sessions of all the human beings, right? So if you're not speaking, that's not interesting, right? And these topics are not from any books, so we can keep our own words. So let's start with the next topic, that is Internet of Minds, right? Have anybody heard the term what is Internet of Minds? Yes or no? Just say yes or no.
No.
Yes.
No.
Okay, who said yes, and what's Internet of Minds?
Okay, we have interacted about it earlier.
Okay, got it.
So maybe others can have a word.
Yeah, got it. So we have heard of Internet of Things, right? That's a booming technology right now in the market. So in that technology, what we are doing, we are connecting things that are not usually connected with internet, like water bottle, bed, chair, cars, buildings, and all those stuff with internet, and calling it a Internet of Things, right? Those things are all the things that are not usually connected with internet, and we are calling it a Internet of Things, because internet means connections of nodes. Now the nodes can be anything. If we are using things in the nodes, so that is Internet of Things. So Internet of Minds means the internet of all the human minds. Now how we are connected, it seems very philosophical, it seems very vague with respect to science, that how we are connected. We are not connected, we cannot see any connection and all those stuff. But that this is because we have medical people as well as technical people on the house today, so we can do a very good debate. That's very interesting. So What happens when we think about something? What happens inside our brain? Biological. What happens? We all have read about it, I think so, in schools and all the stuff, and all those medical people know very well than me also.
Biologically, the hormones will secrete and a lot of reactions will take place.
A little bit
Neurological
more,
combinations.
okay, a little bit more chemical and biological stuff on ground level. These are bigger
Maybe some
stuff.
technical stuff.
Yeah, technical stuff, but what kind of see, we human beings are biological container of chemicals, right? So whatever happening inside our brain or our body, that is a chemical reaction. So what happens when we think about something? What basically happens? I can also give you the reference. Exactly, that
Hello,
is called neurotransmission.
I'm Sushmita Das. I want to say something. May I?
Yeah, sure.
When we think about something, that signal comes from our brain, that is called EEG or electroencephalography. That signal comes, and that is the only biosignal which have the property of electromagnetic property. And through these signals, we can connect with each other. That means, suppose if two persons can become only due to this type of signals, because when these two signals coming from two persons brain, so if those are of the almost of the same frequency, so they can be friends. That is the technical explanation of these things. So this type of explanation I can give. So
Absolutely. So you mostly described what I need. Hello.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, so let's start. So ma'am has already defined what I was about to talk, but I am just going through an overview. What is Internet of Minds? Whenever we think of something that fires electron from one neuron to another neuron through acetylcholine, and that is called neurotransmission, right? And for this neurotransmission, you also know that if some electrons are passing through a conductor, hello. Okay, so if a electron passes through a conductor, that creates. So in that regard, that magnetic field helps us to connect to each other, because if we just place two magnets, uh, uh, if we place two magnets by each other side, that induce each other, right, by magnetic field. So because of this magnetic field only, we can reach up to a technology called brain computer interfacing, right? Brain computer interfacing implant some EEG helmets, EEG electrodes, so to get the magnetic field, decipher the pattern, and do certain stuff like we can just put a helmet on your head, and you will think that the light of your home will just go off. It will just go off. You will think that fan will just go on. It will just go on, right? So we can do that kind of stuff, or think about the paralysis people who cannot walk by their own because of certain disease and all those stuff. So we can give them this as a as a God's gift, like that. They can think of that their wheelchair is moving and all those stuff, that will start moving. So they can start again to live their life on their own terms, right? So Internet of Minds means it's a connection, electromagnetic connections between human to human, and we can induce other people with this thing. Like in philosophy, in spirituality, sometimes we call about law of attraction, right? If you're thinking of something, if you're thinking of some persons, they are coming to our life, or they are just calling us up and all those things. So that is spiritual, and the science behind that particular philosophical thing is Internet of Minds, because we all are connected and we are communicating with each other with our electromagnetic waves, right? Fine. The last boring topic of this first session, then we will get into real technological stuff, robotics and all those things. So how many of you heard of Fibonacci series? Tell yes or no.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so Fibonacci series is a mathematical pattern, right? So it's a very simple pattern. What it do? It's a pattern like that. C third number equals to first and second number, right? And it starts from 0. So 0 plus 1 equals to 1. So 0, 1, 1. Then 1 plus 1 equals to 2. So 0, 1, 1, 2. So it's a pattern like odd number, even number, and all those normal number patterns, right? But why I'm talking about Fibonacci series? Every computer science student need to know about Fibonacci series. They need to write programs about Fibonacci series. But 90% cases, they really don't know why they are learning Fibonacci series. What is the need of learning Fibonacci series? Why it's so much important in computer science, mathematics, design, and all those places, right? So we will understand what is Fibonacci series and why it is so much important and how interesting is this, right? So from Fibonacci series, we can create a spiral that we can see in the screen. If you can see my, you guys can see my cursor, mouse pointer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So look at my mouse pointer. There's a square, very small square, right? So we can imagine that is a square having the side length of 1 unit. The unit can be anything, centimeter, meter, what can be it is, right? And so the first number is 1 because 0 cannot create anything. So the first number is 1. So 1 square. Second number is also 1. So the second square has also the same side length, right? Now we have a side of 2. So we have created another square that is having 2 side length. Now if we go to the next side, so it is 2 plus 1, that is 3. So we have created a square of 3 side lengths, right? Likewise, we have created 5, 8, 13, 21, 34. Now the question is how we get this spiral. We have joined all the diagonals of the square to get this spiral, right? And this spiral is called Fibonacci series. And we can get a particular ratio from this spiral and these numbers. That particular ratio is golden ratio, right? So what is the golden ratio? Golden ratio is 1:1.618, right? That's a ratio that is followed by nature, right? So we can look at this pattern here. Everything is natural thing, right? But we can see the Fibonacci series in every image. These all are natural creations, and not only these, all the natural things are created out of Fibonacci series, right? All the things, like we human beings, we are the most complex evolution of this nature. So we cannot found the Fibonacci series of the spiral directly in our body or our creation, but we are a very complex function of Fibonacci series. Even our thumbprint, even the size of our finger, the ratio of our hand with the size of our finger, and all those things are golden ratios. And in this particular slide, you can see that it's not about nature only. All the big corporates like Apple, Twitter, National Geographic, Pepsi, Toyota, all those people are using this Fibonacci series as their design principle, because this series is such a particular. This series has such a particular ratio that will not change the aspect ratio if you just half down the size, right? Like we use A4 sheet, that is also created out of this Fibonacci series. So if you go to Google and search about paper size and Fibonacci series, you will get all the images and all the information, right? So that is very interesting. Now let's get into real topic, that is robotic. So what is the meaning of robot? What is the origin of this robot word?
Man-made, automated.
With artificial intelligence.
Anybody else?
Something created by humans to help us in our daily tasks.
Nearly perfect. Anybody else?
It may be said as biomimicry.
Okay, so if I join the last two answers, so that makes up the perfect answer. That is the origin of robot word is robota, right? That's a Czech word, and the meaning of robota is substitute of human servants, right? And this was coined in 1921 by Karel Capek. And it would be very much interesting to know that it was not from any research paper or scientific experiment. Rather, this comes from a just a story, just a drama that is called Rossum's Universal Robot, right? And Karel Capek first used this term in that particular novel. So that is the interesting part. We need to understand that there is a process of innovation that starts with art, right? All the people who are doing drawing, who are writing about sci-fi stories and all those things, that are the spark, the initial spark of innovation on which the scientists, the engineers are working on. And the engineers, we are the last end who are implementing those stuff in reality, right? So that is the thing. So if so meaning of robota is substitute of human servant, right? So if we are substituting something with something, so those both things need to have some certain properties in common, otherwise it's not possible to substitute them, right? So in that regard, I have created a chart through which we can preliminarily understand how human, robot and engineering fields are colliding, right? What are the intersections? So like we have our body. Robot has chassis. Chassis means the outer side of the body, or the if you have seen the robot bots, small robot bots, all the mechanical part, all the bodies are called the chassis, right? In case of bigger cars, we call the whole body of the car as a chassis. So it's part of mechanical department, right? Next we have our hearts and veins. Now what is the purpose of heart? Heart pulls out and pulls in blood. The reason behind it, to push oxygen to every part of the body, because in our body the power supply, the power, the electrons are the oxygen, right? If some part of our body is not getting oxygen, that will die. So in that regard, we can compare this heart and vein system in our body with the power supply unit and wires, right? And that is part of electrical department. Now we have sense, right? We human beings can sense real world things. And in case of robots, we have sensor, and that is part of electronics. Now my question is, what is the difference between sense and sensor?
Sensor is something programmed already.
Please. Could you repeat, please?
Sensor is something to use. Sensor is something used to sense the absorb the senses and everything. Actually feel those senses.
Okay.
To detect something.
My question was, what is the difference between sense and sensor? Why we are calling for human beings it's sense? Why you are calling for robots it's a sensor? We can call it a sense. We can call sensor a sense, right? But why you are not calling it?
Sensor, it is like inputs are transmitted into electric signal or something.
Sensor is dependent on sense.
Because sensor is a device. It's a device.
Okay.
And the difference is like human can sense. It's a programmatic kind of like inputs which we give related to the human being sense. For example, if there is a wall, we cannot pass into it, so we will stop there. Something like the sensor was already programmed like that. If there is something a block, we should stop. So I programmed feelings or emotions or something.
Exactly. The last word, I will not go with the whole answer of yours, but the last word, that is feelings. That's what I was looking about. So sense equals to sensor plus feelings. So sense equals to sensor plus feelings, right? We can consider our eyes as a device. Somebody is saying about sensor is a device. So our eyes are also devices, right? Our nose is a device. We can call it. It's a biological device, right? So we have sensors outside that we can look from outside. That we have a ear, we have a nose, we have eyes, and all those stuff. Along with that, we have feelings. We can analyze according to ourselves. We can feel what are the data, what are the inputs we are getting from the sensor, right? Now tell me, what is a sensor? If I want to draw a diagram, a very basic block diagram of any kind of sensor in this world, what will be the input and what will be the output?
1 second. Arisai has commented that Senses biological and sensors are mechanical and man-made.
Okay, but not truly, like not truly. We can tell that eye is our sensor, but seeing mechanism is our sense, right? So we have to understand in that regard, because if you want to learn robotics, if you want to get into robotics, the first and foremost thing, you need to consider yourself a robot, and you have to just make a comparison between whatever you are doing in the robotics world as well as in the real world, right? Like if I ask you, you want to make an automatic night lamp, right? So if we want to discuss about the project that we will do in the later part of this session, so we first need to understand, if I am a automatic night lamp, what algorithm should I follow to do that stuff, right? Then only I can program a robot or build a robot or an automatic system which can do that stuff, right? So sense equals to sensor plus cleans. Let's get into the sensor part. What is a sensor? If we just draw a block diagram of a sensor, how a sensor will look like?
It will
Microparticle?
consist of-
Like let's get back to certain sharing. Everybody can see the whiteboard?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Suppose
Yeah.
suppose this is a block of a sensor. This is any kind of sensor, right? So what else I need to put into this block diagram to make it complete? Like I can depict the whole process to someone. Like if we need to teach a class 5 or class 6 or class 7 student what is a sensor, how we are going to teach them.
So can you frame your question again
Wires.
in different way?
Like if it is a sensors block diagram, I have draw the device, right? Any kind of sensor. This is a very general purpose sensor. Now what will be the input and what will be the output of this sensor?
Karthik has commented wires. It consists of wires,
Okay.
signal,
Program set.
Okay.
a transistor, a power supply.
Okay. So I am not that much intelligent like all of you. So I just go with very
Some
simple
instruction
examples.
set.
Okay. I am not getting into technology. I understand technology very little, so I am not getting into technology. Let's understand in fun manner and with real life examples. So suppose it's a sensor, right? What a sensor do? Sensor converts or sends real world event into digital world as a numbers, right? Whatever the sensor in this world, if it's a digital sensor, it will give only two numbers, either 0 or 1. If it's an analog sensor, it will give a range of numbers, because the difference between analog and digital is the same. Like digital means only 0 and 1. There can be only two states, but analog means it can be anything between 0 and 1 or any numbers, right? It's a range of numbers. Like suppose it's a sinusoidal wave, right? So it has every value within it has this value, it has this value, this is also a value, right? Different values. But if we draw a digital signal, that will look like this. It is 1 and this is 0, then 1, then 0, right? So this is also 1 and this is 0. So it can only have two values, either 1 or 0. So what happening with the sensor? Sensor is a device that senses the real world event and convert that event into numbers. Let's take an example. Suppose we have a light sensor, right? We don't need to figure out right now what kind of electronics is needed for a light sensor, what is the light sensor cost and all those stuff. Let's understand the basic concept. And if you can understand this concept, you can work with any kind of sensor in this world. I don't need to teach you a single sensors, right? So understand this thing, and if you are not understanding, ask me 10 times, right? I will answer, but ask me. So the thing is, sensor is a device that converts real world event, like light sensor. Light sensor will sense the real world event, that is light or the intensity of light, right? And convert that intensity of light into some numbers. That number is 0 to 1023. It means it can be anything according to the light range. It can be 500. It can be 500. It can be 1000. Whatever it is. Hello.
Just a second.
Yeah.
Arisa is asking, is microphone a type of sensor?
You can say that. Yeah, it's a sensor. It's a sound sensor. Absolutely. That's the reason I'm depicting in this easy manner so that you can understand by yourself. I didn't tell you that microphone is a sensor, but that strike into your mind. That's what needed. That's the learning process, right? So sensor is a device that converts what? Real into digital. Real into digital. Real into digital, right? Now tell me, suppose I have a robot, right? That robot have a distance sensors. Don't figure out what is the distance sensor. Just understand a sensor that can sense distance, right? Now, the robot can understand about any object, that I have an object that is 10 centimeter apart from me, in front of me, right? Now, how he will react, rather how he will just avoid the collision, what kind of things he will need for avoiding the collision?
It should stop moving.
It should stop, absolutely. So for stopping the thing, we need two things. The first one is a brain, right? Where the sensor data is going and the brain is processing that there is an object 10 centimeter apart from my body. So if I am going forward, I will just collide with that stuff. So I have to stop. So this decision will be taken by a brain. And in robotics, we call that brain a microcontroller or microprocessor. Got my point? All the mobile phones, all the cell phones you have, that has a motherboard inside, right? You all know that. That motherboard has a small chip that is called the processor that process all the informations, right? So that is the brain of your mobile. Likewise, when we are building a robot, that robot needs to have a brain, right? That brain is called the microcontroller and microprocessor. Today, as the time is not that much, so I am not getting into the what is the difference between microprocessor and microcontroller. Just understand both of the things can be used as a robot brain, right? So microcontroller is the brain. Now microcontroller understand that there is an object that if I am going forward, I will just collide with it. But how the microcontroller will stop the car?
It should be programmed.
Okay, program for what? Program to do what?
Yes, CPU.
Yeah, it should be
specific limit.
It should first be programmed how to stop.
Exactly. Now when
specific limit to be stopped.
Okay. So now we need to understand. We have understand sensors, right? We have understand what are microcontrollers. We will get into deeper, but still we know the basic stuff. Now the third thing we are going to learn right now, that is actuators, right? What is the meaning of actuate? Actuate means locomotion, movement, right? Anything that is moving, our hands, our legs, whatever is moving, that is an actuator that helps us to locomote through an environment, right? Likewise, robots also have actuators. So if a sensor is converting real world data into digital world data, what an actuator is doing? What can be the actuator's diagram? Suppose it's an actuator, right? It's looking like a broken actuator. Anyways. So what can be the input and the output for an actuator?
Input should first be the programming, then the output should be the result of the programming, which is the
so absolutely right, but get into the generalized sense.
Karthik has commented data, output movement.
Absolutely, these terminologies are technological terminologies. If you are trying to teach a 10-year-old kid, what will you tell? Rather, not 10 years old. Suppose it's in 7-8 class 7-8 or something like that. Understand things simply and very easy manner, so that you can retain it for lifetime. So I'm
We need
giving
to
a
give them instructions.
okay, but
in
a
simple sober language.
7-year-old kid cannot understand what is the instructions and what is the real action and all those stuff. So just keep it simple and make it simple. So our actuator do the absolutely inverse process of a sensor. It converts digital data, because whatever the thing is, a program or whatever is, it's a digital thing. So it converts digital things into real actions. Like my microcontroller tells the motor to stop, that motor stops and the wheels stop moving. That's why my bot just stopped from a collision. Or the microcontroller is telling the wheels to move, or the motors to move, and the motor is moving. That's why my bot is going forward. So the electrons or the digital data is creating a real world action, that is moving forward, moving backward, moving left, moving right, and all those stuff, right? So motor is an actuator, and a ultrasonic sensor or a sound sensor or a light sensor, all those stuff are the sensors, right? And so sensor and actuators are absolutely inverse things, and that is the most important part of robotics. So let's get back to the slides. Now you can see my slides.
So what would be the connector between a sensor and an actuator? Would
The
there
brain,
be
the
any need for any
microcontroller.
such? Okay.
The microcontroller, the brain. The actuator will be connected with the microcontroller. The sensors will be connected with the microcontroller. Sensors will send the data of the real environment, according to which the microcontroller will take the decision and ask the actuator to do certain things, right?
So the diagram would actually be like a real event to sensor, then to then to microprocessor, to actuator, then to the real life back, the
Exactly.
normal course of action.
Exactly. So this is the circle. Fine. So sensors are part of electronics. The next part is the most important part that we are talking about last 5 minutes. That is the logic and intelligence, the programming, the instructions, the coding, and all those stuff, right? So we have logic and intelligence. In case of robotics, we call it a coding or artificial intelligence, coding and artificial intelligence, and this is part of computer science, right? Now, robots can be of two types. One is manual robot, one is autonomous robot. What is a manual robot? As I have told you before, that robot is nothing but a electromechanical device that substitute a human being or human servant. So a fan, a light is also a robot, because it is substituting, like we have seen in movies, very old age movies, that there are people who having very big hand fans and fanning the kings and all those stuff, right? So those people are substituted with the fan. We are putting on a switch and the fan is revolving and we are getting the air, right? So fan is also a robot, but the fan don't has the capability to decide on something. So that is the reason fan is a manual robot, because it needs human being to intervene and tell what to do. So that is part of manual robot. Now, what is the autonomous robot? If a manual robot has the ability to decide on something for a certain environment, that is an autonomous robot. Like if we add a weather sensor or a temperature sensor with this fan, that when the temperature of the room is getting higher, just speed up the fan, and when it's going lower, just slow down the fan, right? So it's become autonomous robot. So we can convert manual robots into autonomous by adding sensors and the brain, so that it can take decisions, right? So this is how manual robots and autonomous robots are related, and these are the main categorizations of robots according to the decision making power, right? Let's start. Let's get into the interesting part, most interesting part, that is A for Arduino. Because if you're trying to learn robotics, and if the robotics alphabets are like English alphabets, so the A should be not Apple, A for Arduino, because that is the initial stuff of robotics, doing hobby robotics, right? So Arduino is the brain of the robot that we are talking about. That's the place where we need to connect the sensors as well as the actuators to create a complete system, complete automated system, right? So I'm not getting into very deeper of this Arduino. If anybody interested, I will give all the social media handles of mine. They can come to me and I can explain later on. But as because I don't have that much time today, so I am going through a little bit faster. And
sorry to interrupt. Another 10 minutes, the meeting will end.
okay.
So again, we can join the same link.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
So, there is a black chip in the middle of this blue board. This blue board is not the brain. This black chip is the brain, and this blue board is a development board so that we can just communicate with the brain in much easier way, right? So it's called a microcontroller development board. Arduino is not the microcontroller. It has Atmega 328P as the brain. This chip is the brain, Atmega microcontroller, and this board is used so that we can interface different sensors and actuators much more easily with this brain, right? So this is called Arduino, and this is made by Arduino company. And this is Arduino Uno. They have different kind of
screen is in that whiteboard. Nothing.
Okay. Just. Just a second. Now, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this black chip is the Atmega microcontroller, right? So this is the microcontroller. This is the brain, not the whole board. This whole board is just designed in such a way so that we can connect sensors and actuators in much more easy way rather than having it very tough and very clumsy process to connect all the sensors, so that we can build robots at very early age very easily and very faster, right? So there are several microcontrollers development board are available, but Arduino is most famous and most easily available, right? So it is the Arduino Uno. They have different kind of boards with different number of capacity of pin numbers and all those computational power, right? So now let's understand a little bit of this particular board. We can see there is a A0 to A5 on the left hand side, right? Pins. See my cursor. So this A0 to A5 pins are analog input pins. It means if we have an analog sensor that gives us value of a range rather than 0 and 1. It's maybe seems to be a little bit complex right now until we are seeing things with our own eyes, right? I will just show you by virtual robotics lab and all those things. But for the time being, understand, if a sensor like light sensor, light cannot be 1 or 0, right? It can have different kind of intensities. Or the sound cannot be 0 or 1. So it has different kind of intensities. So these kind of sensors which produce analog signals, that is connected with this 6 pins, any of the 6 pins. So we can connect 6 analog sensors with this particular board. On the right hand side, from top to bottom, you have 0 to 13, right? So that 0 to 13 is the digital pins. So we have total 14 digital pins on board with this particular Arduino Uno. Now these analog pins are analog in, but these digital pins are called digital IO pin. IO means input output. It means analog pin can only take inputs. Like we can, when we are just connecting a sensor with the pin, what is happening? The sensor is sending some signals, right? So this board can receive signals through this A0 to A5 pins, but it can give signal as well as receive signals through these digital pins, through these 14 digital pins, right? And except those 14 digital pins, we have a ground pin, GND. Ground means that is a 0 volt, right? And this is also a ground. This is a 5 volt pin. If we connect a jumper or anywhere with this pin and powering up this board, we will get a 5 volt every time. We cannot program all these pins, right? 3.3 volt, and we can see a USB, right? So the purpose of the USB is to program this board. Like this brain is absolutely a child's brain, newborn child's brain. It don't has anything, right? Though the child's brain has few things, few algorithms, but it has nothing. It's a blank brain. So we have to upload the logic algorithms within that board so that it can work for certain environments, right? So in that regard, we use this USB and certain softwares to program this board and create a robot out of it, right? But what after we have done the programming? It's not possible always to connect a USB through our laptop to power up this board. So we can use 12-volt adapter to power up this board. When we have uploaded the code, if we are powering up this board start running the same program again and again until and unless we are just powering it off, right? Any questions from here? Let's get into some interesting topic. It was getting boring. So,
Sir, I have a question.
yeah. Please say.
Basic. Yeah. So my question is, without studying the complete robotics and the robotic technology, as you said, if we understood the concepts of the usage of sensors, if someone is interested in getting into robotics, can we make some simple robotic equipments in our commercial, for our commercial purpose at home, right? For example, there is a switch to be on and it should be off by 15 or 20 minutes. For example, a motor switch. If we are good enough in understanding the concepts, we can set a timer and which can automatically switches off that motor after 15 or 20 minutes, which we can preset, right?
Absolutely.
So to do that mechanism, should we study something, or we can just get some tools or some sessions like yours, so that we can buy the sensors from the market and we can assemble it in our home and we can directly go ahead and do that. So is it
okay? So now there is few things you need to understand. First thing, if a wheel is already invented, don't reinvent a wheel. So if you have the availability, if you have the possibility to get something that has already been invented, and you can get that thing in very cheap price, like a button or something like that, right? It should be better to get that button from the market and do your project, right? Now, suppose you are doing a project at certain place where you cannot get any kind of support to get some components delivered or something like that. At that point, your creativity and innovation will work, and you can use anything, any physical thing to create a sensor, a switch, a actuator, whatever it is. See, what are sensors? What are sensors? We need to find some electrical or any kind of metal that changes their property according to the change of the event we want to recognize. Like in case of light dependent resistor, that is a light sensor, that is simple resistor which changes resistance according to the intensity of the light. So we can use that stuff for sensing the light. Now for soil sensor or for water sensor, you can build a water sensor with very simple steps. You can create two metal sticks. Please mute the.
Someone should get muted. Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
So you can create a soil moisture sensor. You can create soil sensor. Even when we create something like we have built the Eastern India's first robot that is delivering foods in restaurant, and that's a service robot. So in doing that stuff, not everything was available in the market, right? So what we need to do, we need to create things out of nothing. We need to create things out of very common things, common available things that was not seem to be a sensor, or that not seems to be actually